There's no amount of conversational drills or practice or learning how to say my name is Ahmed and I'm from Cairo and this is the bathroom that will move you even a millimeter closer to being able to do what I just did there. The Quran is full of this, and the Quran is miraculously eloquent, and the ancient Arabians, when they heard the Quran, it moved them deeply. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yusufullah here. So inshallah, in today's video, we're going to go through a word that's a very common word in the Quran. It occurs about 72 times, the word Aleem. In 70 of those places, it's combined with the word adhab. So adhabun Aleem, painful punishment, is generally translated as painful punishment. And in 2 places, it's combined with the word yawm, as in, I fear for you the punishment of a painful day. Adhab yawmin Aleem. So if you look in the tafsir of al-Baydawi, when it comes in Surah Al-Baqarah, where it talks about the hypocrites, and it said that فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ مَرَضٌ, within their hearts there is a disease, and then Allah increases them in their disease. وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْذِبُونَ, and they will receive a painful punishment because of all of the lying that they used to do. So over there, al-Baydawi takes the word Aleem and he renders it mu'lam. Okay, and this is also in the tafsir of Jalalain, like 72 places. Every place is Aleem, mu'lam. So when we teach the Jalalain in the weekend classes, because I've been teaching tafsir for well over 15 years, teaching classical Arabic for about 25 years. So whenever we come across these verses, he says Aleem, mu'lam. So what's his intent? And what is he trying to communicate? He's taking the word Aleem, which is an adjective on the pattern of Faʿīl, and he's saying this is in the meaning of the passive participle, because a Faʿīl could be in the meaning of a Faʿīl, like a hyperbolic version of the doer. So we have the one who hears, and we have the all-hearing, the one who knows, and the all-knowing. So most of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala where this pattern is used, it's in this sense. It's a hyperbolic version of Faʿīl, al-Aziz al-Hakim, the Almighty, the All-Wise, as-Sami' al-Basir, the all-hearing, the all-seeing, and also the word Rahim, when it comes as a name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it means the all-merciful, right? So the commentator, Imam al-Baydawi, when he says Aleem mu'lam, he's saying this is not in the active sense, but instead this is an example of a Faʿīl being used in the passive sense. So examples of Faʿīl in passive are very common in the Arabic language. I can give you like several examples. We have like the word Raheen, which is a thing that's given as a mortgage. Raheen, in the meaning of marhoon. Or qatil, a murder victim, a person who's been killed. Qatil, in the meaning of maqtul. Or jarih, in the meaning of majruh, one who's wounded. So he's suggesting, so what does it mean for a punishment to be experiencing pain? So Aleem in the meaning of mu'lam would mean that the punishment is experiencing pain. So what is he suggesting? So this becomes a little like happy life, Aishatin radiyatin, where it's actually the person that's happy with the life, but then it's reformatted, and it's a rhetorical transfer of the attribute to the master, or to the thing. Okay, and in Arabic this is called the Isnād Majāzī. It's called Isnād Majāzī or Majāz aqli. There's 2 names for it, Majāz aqli. Let me define it for you. Whenever there's a verb or a verb-like entity predicated to its actual Faʿīl, the one who's really doing it, then that's called Isnād haqiqi, like a literal, true predication. And whenever the verb or the verb-like entity is predicated to other than its actual Faʿīl, and the other could be like the sabab or the time or the place. Like they say, naharuhu sa'im, that his day is fasting. So is it the person that's fasting, or is it the day that's fasting? So the person fasts within the day, but when they express it, they say naharuhu sa'imun, or they say jadda jidduhu. In other words, his effort made effort. So is the person making effort, or is the effort making the effort? So you could take the verb and suppress its actual Faʿīl, the one that's doing it, and take one of these alternative details and put that as the Faʿīl. Now the question is, why would you do that? Why would you take the verb and predicate it to its time, or predicate it to the maf'ūl bihi, or the thing that the person is happy with? You give the impression that the life is experiencing the happiness. The reason this is done is in order to do a rhetorical transfer and to create exaggeration in the meaning. In other words, this punishment is so painful that not only are the people that are experiencing it, experiencing the punishment in pain, but the punishment itself is now in pain, because there's leftover pain, like all the people are tormented and there's leftover pain, and then it's as if the punishment itself is now experiencing the pain. Okay, so al-Baydawi says this, and I have here the tafsir of Baydawi. Okay, this is the commentary, the ḥāshiyah of Shaykh Zadah, Muhyiddin Shaykh Zadah, on the tafsir of Baydawi. So he says, وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ أي مُؤْلَمٌ. So he renders the word alim mu'lamun. يُقَالُ أَلِيمَ فَهُوَ أَلِيمٌ. And he says that the verb for this is he experienced pain, so therefore he is alim. So it's a intransitive version. Alima doesn't mean to cause pain. Alima does not mean to cause pain. Alima means to experience pain, to be in agony. So this person is in agony. كَوَجِعَ فَهُوَ وَجِعَ. Like the verb waji'a, it also has similar meaning. And then he says, وُصِفَ بِهِ الْعَذَابُ لِلْمُبَالَغَةِ. And the punishment was given the description that should have been for the people that are experiencing the pain, was transferred over to the azab لِلْمُبَالَغَةِ, in order to exaggerate the meaning and intensify the meaning. And then he gives an example. The commentator, Shaykh Zadah, explaining the words of Imam al-Baydawi, he says, أي مؤلم بفتح اللام. So this is what the fatah on the lam, على أنه اسم مفعول, based on the fact that this is a passive participle. So like I said earlier, the word Faʿīl could be active, it could be passive, so he's picking the passive. Okay, so على أنه اسم مفعول من عالم إيلاما. Okay, now he doesn't take it from alima, which is the mujarrad, which is the simple version, alima, because alima doesn't have passive, because it's like sitting and standing. Sitting and standing it doesn't support an object. Okay, because when you sit, as opposed to hitting and helping, because hitting, you would expect there to be two people, the person doing the hitting and the object of the hitting. So he takes it from the closest variation with the same base letters that does have an object, which would be alam ilaman. Alam ilaman. Okay, ay awja'a ija'an falmu'lamu huwa al-mu'azzab. So therefore, al-mu'lam is the person that's experiencing the pain. الذي تعلق به الألم, to whom pain is associated. وصار محلا له, and he's become the host, or he's become the recipient of the pain. محلا له. فهو بمعنى الأليم. So therefore, in the words of the Mufassir, Imam al-Baydawi, mu'lam is synonymous with alim. Mu'lam is synonymous with alim. فَإِنَّهُ صِفَةٌ مُشَبَّهَةٌ, because the word alim is a permanent adjective. So now he's specifying the kind of VLE. Okay, so we have verbs and we have verb-like entities. And the verb-like entities is like 5 of them in the Arabic language. Masdar is one of them. Ismul fa'il, ismul maf'ul, sifa mushabbaha, ismul tafdil. And I think that's it. And sighatul mubalagha. These are the ones. So he's specifying which one it is. And sifa mushabbaha is constructed from intransitive. So like beautiful, or like ugly. So the verb would be to be beautiful. The verb would be to be ugly. And then we have the word beautiful, the word ugly. Hasanun, qabihun, karimun, tawilun. So these are all examples of sifa mushabbah. In other words, there's no action involved. In sifa mushabbah, there's no action. It's like a permanent adjective, what we would call a permanent adjective. Mushtaqun min al-fi'l al-lazim, and it's derived from a intransitive base, intransitive masdar. وهو ألم يألم ألما فهو أليم ومعنى ألم صار ذا ألم, and the meaning of alima is he became in a state of pain. بأن تعلق به الألم, in the sense that he's experiencing it. فيكون ذا ألم وهو بعينه بمعنى المؤلم, and this is exactly the same meaning communicated by the other word المؤلم. Okay, قوله وصف به العذاب للمبالغة, and he quotes Imam al-Baydawi and he says that what does it mean for this adjective to be used in order to describe the punishment for the purpose of exaggeration? He says جواب لما يقال. So here the Mufassir, he's responding to the question that could be posed, that Aleem at that point would be a description of the mu'azzab بفتح الذال. Okay, جواب لما يقال من أن أليم حينئذ يكون صفة المعذب بفتح الذال لا صفة العذاب. It's no longer a description of the punishment, because the punishment is painful and the punishment is not in pain, quote unquote, in pain. So because mu'allam means in pain, it doesn't mean painful, it means in pain. فَكَيْفَ وُصِفَ بِهِ الْعَذَابِ. So how was this adjective that should have been for the person repurposed and applied to the punishment itself? Okay, so he's responding to that. So Imam al-Baydawi is responding to that. And he's saying, وَوَجْهُ الْمُبَالَغَةِ أَنَّ التَّوْصِيفَ بِهِ الْمَذْكُورِ على أن الألم المتعلق بالعذاب بلغ في القوة والكمال إلى حيث سرى من المعذب في العذاب العارض له or إلى العذاب العارض له. So the way that this exaggerates the meaning is that this mentioned application, applying the adjective to the thing as opposed to the person, is based on the fact that the agony that's associated to the mu'adhab, the pain that the person is experiencing, has reached such a high level of intensity to the point that it's now transferred over from the person and now moved into the punishment itself that's happening to the person. وَأَنَّهُ مِنْ شِدَّتِهِ, and due to the severity of it, the punishment is now experiencing the pain. يَتَأَلَّمُ بِنَفْسِهِ, it's experiencing itself, so to speak. Okay? وَهَذَا نِهَايَةُ الْمُبَالَغَةِ, and he's saying that this is the extreme high limit and it's the utmost highest degree of intensifying a meaning. كَمَا وُصِفَ الضَّرْبُ, and then he gives the line, a comparable example from poetry, and that is what he says. Okay? So basically, whenever a verb or a verb-like entity is predicated to its actual fa'il, that's called Isnād haqiqi, and when it's predicated to other than its actual fa'il, then it's done for one of these benefits. There's no amount of conversational drills or practice or learning how to say my name is Ahmed and I'm from Cairo and this is a bathroom that will move you even a millimeter closer to being able to do what I just did there, what I just demonstrated for you on camera. The Qur'an is full of this, and the Qur'an is miraculously eloquent, and the ancient Arabians, when they heard the Qur'an, it moved them deeply. Like when the Prophet ﷺ recited the final verses of Surah An-Najm, it comes in Sahih al-Bukhari that all of the audience fell in prostration. All the Muslims fell in prostration. The non-Muslims and the disbelievers also fell in prostration, except for one old man. He took some sand or some pebbles and he put it on his forehead and he said, "This is enough for me." So these Arabians, of course, obviously they were eloquent speakers and they could speak and they can communicate and they can express their intent. But what was it exactly that moved them? Was it their ability to speak, or was it their ability to grasp what the verses were actually saying? So they were able to detect these things that I just described to you. And this is what moved the pre-Islamic Arab and dumbfounded them. And they couldn't compete against it. And the Quran challenged them to produce the equivalent of 3 small verses that would match the Quran in its eloquence. And they chose to go to war. Instead of meeting the challenge, they chose to go to war. And they risked their lives and they risked their money. And they would not have done that unless they recognized that the Quran is miraculously eloquent. So if you start studying properly, because what I just did there is not going to come to you. Like if you get really, really good at being able to communicate and express your intent, then it's not going to teach you the nuances of the Arabic language. So there's a statement that النحو في الكلام كالملح في الطعام, that grammar within speech is like salt within food. Okay, so even classically, like whoever said this, they were trying to prove a point that like if you eat food and there's no salt in the food, then it's not pleasurable and it's not delicious and you don't feel like eating it. But when it has the salt in it, then you can enjoy it and you will find it delicious. So it's not saying that there is a small amount and there's a large amount, and if there's a small amount of salt in the food, then it's good, and the minute you have too much of it, then it becomes corrupted. So if you have too much grammar, then your study of Arabic becomes corrupted. You know, they're not saying that. That's not what they're saying. Because grammar is either there or it's not there. So they're talking about the absence and the presence of grammar. So wherever there's the presence of grammar, then it becomes like food with salt. And if grammar goes missing, then it becomes food without salt. And it's not about kathra and qilla that they're talking about. And also sometimes examples are given of the ancient Arabians, like the Prophet Ismail alayhi salatu wasalam. He grew up amongst the tribe of Jurhum and he learned the Arabic language from them, and there were no grammar books. But I mean, of course, there were no grammar books because they lived the grammar and they were speaking correctly. All it proves is that as a child, a person can pick up the entire language if they're living in an uncorrupted, immersive environment where all that's happening is proper Arabic is being spoken. So a child that's in that environment 24/7 and hearing and speaking it, then of course they're going to learn the language through immersion alone. But that does not describe the situation of adults living today in Western societies where we speak English. So this is why study is required, and this is why we need to prioritize learning how the language works, starting with the most broadly applicable aspects of the language. And these are the things that I've been teaching for well over 20 years. And what I did there with the tafsir of Baydawi, and I explained that word, we basically do this every week. Every week on Saturday, Sundays, we go through verses of the Qur'an and we explain the nuances and the deeper meanings that are there. Okay, and we use our knowledge of Arabic and our knowledge of Nahw and Sarf and Balagha to be able to see the miraculous eloquence of the verses. So if you learn this, then within a year, in all likelihood, inshallah, when you're standing behind the Imam, you too will be able to follow the arguments and follow properly what's being said there and be moved like the pre-Islamic Arab was moved. And if you want to begin, you can start with this video. And I look forward to speaking with you soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.